Riley had heard the rumors about Shadowland, the abandoned theme park on the outskirts of town. It had been closed for over a decade after a series of mysterious accidents, and whispers of the paranormal had kept most people away. But Riley, a curious and daring 16-year-old, was not like most people. With her flashlight in hand and her heart pounding with excitement and fear, she decided to explore the park under the cover of night. The entrance loomed ahead, the once vibrant colors now faded and peeling. As Riley stepped through the rusted gates, a chill ran down her spine. The wind howled through the empty attractions, creating an eerie symphony that echoed in the darkness. She walked past the dilapidated ticket booths and into the heart of the park, her footsteps the only sound in the silence. She ventured towards the Ferris wheel, its skeletal frame towering over her like a giant sentinel. The creaking of its rusted metal sounded like a mournful wail. As she moved closer, a sense of unease settled over her. The park was more than just abandoned. It felt wrong. The air was thick with a palpable sense of dread, as if the very ground beneath her feet was soaked with the memories of a forgotten nightmare. Riley's flashlight beam swept over the decrepit rides and faded signs, revealing glimpses of a once bustling paradise now swallowed by decay. She reached the carousel, the horses frozen in mid-gallop, their painted eyes staring blankly into the void. The eerie silence was suddenly broken by a faint, almost imperceptible whisper. Riley's heart skipped a beat as she strained to listen, but the sound was gone as quickly as it had appeared. Determined to uncover the secrets of Shadowland, she continued her exploration. The further she ventured, the more unsettling the atmosphere became. She found herself at the entrance of the haunted house, its facade cracked and weathered. With a deep breath, she pushed open the creaking door and stepped inside. The darkness inside the haunted house was suffocating, swallowing her flashlight beam and amplifying the creaks and groans of the old building. As Riley navigated the narrow corridors, she felt an oppressive weight pressing down on her. Shadows seemed to move just out of the corner of her eye, and the air was thick with the scent of mildew and decay. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the halls, causing Riley to jump. She whipped her flashlight around, its beam dancing across the walls. Her pulse quickened as she realized she was not alone. Footsteps echoed behind her, slow and deliberate. Panic surged through her veins as she broke into a run, her footsteps echoing in the narrow corridor. She rounded a corner and stumbled into a room filled with old props and mannequins dressed in tattered costumes. The footsteps grew louder, closer. Riley ducked behind a stack of crates, her breath coming in ragged gasps. She peeked through a crack between the boxes and saw a shadowy figure moving through the room, searching. The figure's movements were deliberate, almost methodical, as if they were hunting her. Riley's mind raced. Who is this person? Why were they here? She had to get out, but the exits were far, and the figure was too close. She waited until the figure moved to the other side of the room, then slipped out from her hiding place and crept towards the door. Every creak of the floorboard seemed deafening in the silence. Just as she reached the door, it swung open with a violent crash. The sinister man stood in the doorway, his eyes glinting with malevolent intent. Riley's blood ran cold as she recognized him from the news, a dangerous criminal who had escaped from a nearby prison months ago. The man lunged at her, and she darted past him, sprinting down the corridor with adrenaline-fueled speed. Riley burst out of the haunted house and into the open air, but the relief was short-lived. The man was right behind her, relentless in his pursuit. She dodged between the rides, her lungs burning and her legs aching. The park had become a nightmarish maze, and she was the prey in a deadly game of cat and mouse. She spotted a maintenance shed and dashed inside, slamming the door shut and locking it. She pressed her back against the wall, her heart hammering in her chest. The shed was filled with old tools and equipment, offering little in the way of defense. Riley's eyes scanned the room, and she grabbed a rusty crowbar, clutching it tightly. Outside, the footsteps grew louder, then stopped. Silence. Riley held her breath, straining to hear. The door handle rattled, then stopped. She heard the sound of something being dragged against the wall, followed by a series of heavy thuds. The man was trying to break in. Riley's mind raced. She couldn't stay here. She had to find a way out. She noticed a small window near the ceiling and scrambled towards it, using a stack of crates to reach it. She pried it open and squeezed through, dropping to the ground outside with a muffled thud. She took off running again, her lungs burning with every breath. She reached the edge of the park, the gates looming ahead. Just as she thought she was free, the man tackled her from behind, sending them both crashing to the ground. Riley fought with all her strength, struggling to break free. She managed to slip away and run. She didn't stop until she reached her neighborhood, her body trembling with exhaustion and fear. She stumbled up the steps of her house and banged on the door. Her parents opened it, their faces pale with worry. Riley collapsed into their arms, sobbing uncontrollably. But the nightmare was far from over. As the police arrived and took her statement, Riley glanced out the window and saw a shadowy figure standing at the edge of the yard, watching her. The sinister man had followed her home. A chilling realization settled over her. The game was not over. It had only just begun. The following days were a blur of anxiety and fear. Riley's parents installed security cameras and new locks, but the sense of unease lingered. She couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, and every creak and shadow in the house set her nerves on edge. One night, as she lay in bed, she heard a faint tapping on her window. Her heart raced as she peered through the curtains, but saw nothing. She tried to convince herself it was just a branch in the wind, but deep down, she knew better. The man was still out there, waiting for the right moment. Riley resolved to stay vigilant, but exhaustion soon took its toll. She fell into a restless sleep, plagued by nightmares of Shadowland and the sinister man. In the dead of night, she was jolted awake by a loud crash. Her bedroom window shattered, and the man climbed through, his eyes gleaming with malicious intent. Panic seized her, but she forced herself to move. She grabbed her phone and dialed 911, but the call wouldn't go through. The man advanced towards her, and she threw the phone at him, buying herself a few precious seconds to escape. She bolted down the hallway, her mind racing with terror. She reached the living room and grabbed a baseball bat her father kept for protection. The man followed, moving with a predatory grace. Riley swung the bat, but he caught it and yanked it from her hands. She stumbled back, her foot catching on the rug, and fell to the floor. Just as the man loomed over her, a deafening roar filled the room. Her father tackled the man, wrestling him to the ground. Riley scrambled to her feet and ran to call the police. She returned to find her father struggling with the man, who had managed to get the upper hand. With a primal scream, Riley lunged at the man, causing him to back off just enough for her father to regain control. The police arrived moments later, bursting through the door and taking the man into custody. As the officers led the man away, Riley felt a sense of relief wash over her. The nightmare was finally over, but as she watched the man being driven away, his eyes met hers, and a chilling smile spread across his face. Riley knew that while he was behind bars, the memory of Shadowland and the terror he had caused would haunt her forever. If you enjoyed this spine-chilling tale of Riley's nightmarish escape from Shadowland, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more terrifying stories. Stay safe, and remember, some places are abandoned for a reason.